Hello everybody, Raven Knight here, and welcome to yet another episode of For Honor Executions Graded. This is the series where we take a look at each hero in For Honor, take a look at all of their unique executions, and then give them a grade just to decide how awesome they are. We've been doing this for a while, guys, and we've gone through almost all the heroes. There are only a handful left to go. We got Kyoshin, what we're going to do today, Griffin, and the three Outlanders. Now, I know in the most recent poll, everyone voted for Griffin, but some people were pointing out to me that Griffin's going to have his Hero Fest execution coming out soon, so I thought it'd be best to wait on Griffin and come back to him later and instead do Kyoshin because he's already had his Hero Fest, so he has 6 executions to take a look at. And hey, also, I kind of figured I'd go ahead and get the weeb out of the way first. It is no secret to anyone that knows me that I'm not a huge Kyoshin fan. I think that there's some interesting stuff about him, but he's definitely not my favorite hero. But I'm still looking forward to taking a look at his executions today, and I hope you guys are too. Now, for those of you who are brand new to the series and don't know what's going on, take a look in the upper right-hand corner of the screen now or down in the description below, and you'll be led to a video called That's an Execution, where I take a look at my rubric and tell you guys basically what I'm going to be doing, how I'm going to be grading these things, what all I look for. But most of you are probably very familiar with this series and already know what I'm going to do, but you need a quick refresher, so here's what's going to go down. I'm going to take a look at all of Kyoshin's unique executions, and in his case there are 6 total. I'm going to grade them all based on 4 criteria. Number 1, how lethal is it? Can it kill? Number 2, how realistic is it? Is it real? Could you do something like this? Is this actually possible? Number 3, efficiency. Is this something that would be wise to do on the battlefield? Is it quick enough? Is it effective enough? And then finally, cool factor. Just how awesome is it? How cool is it to look at? Does it fit their personality? We're going to take a look at all of that together and then finally get an average score for Kyoshin, and we'll know just how good his executions are. I'm excited, guys. Let's not waste any more time and take a look at Kyoshin's executions. First up is Savage Sandstorm. Sandstorm. I don't know what about this has to do with sand or storms, but hey, you know what? You've got to have these really cool alliterations, right? All right, so for this one, for lethality, it's hard to call. It depends on where he hits in that final strike. Let's take a look from this perspective. We see him doing multiple slashes, reverse grip, and then a strike to the throat, probably hitting the jugular or carotid. Yeah, this person's dead. I'm going to go ahead and assume that this is a 4. This person is dead. We've severed an important blood vessel. This person is done. Okay. For realism, though, is this realistic? I'm going to give it a 3. And my big problem here is that he's using the reverse grip of the sword. If he'd not gone reverse grip, I wouldn't have a problem. But the reverse grip, I just do not see as feasible. I think there are a lot of problems with reverse grip holdings. I don't think it gives you enough penetration or enough cutting power. I think that it's something that's meant to look cool and edgy, but has no real credibility or validity in actual combat. I'm not a fan of it, but it's what Kyoshin likes to do, so we gotta deal with it. But that's a 3 for realism. For efficiency, I'll give it a 4. This is incredibly fast. I wish that he wouldn't do a reverse grip, but I will give it 1 piece of forgiveness. I like that he cleans his blade. Kyoshin is the only hero so far in the game who has a sheath that goes with his blade. No one else does. He's the only one. Kind of surprising. But when you have a sheath, there are some things to keep in mind, and I think that's important with Kyoshin. When you have a sheath, you need to realize that if your blade is not clean and you resheath your sword into the scabbard or sheath, you're going to be getting all that gunk and muck and blood all on the inside, and that is a problem. You don't want to mess up your scabbard. You don't want to get the inside all dirty and gunky. That's not good for your sword, and it will wear it out. So I like the fact that he cleans it. There are better ways to clean it than what he does, but at least that is something we see Kyoshin do on occasion, which I think is a smart idea. And then for cool factor, cool factor is going to be a 4. So 4 for efficiency, 4 for cool factor. It just looks really cool. If there's one thing that Kyoshin seems to do very frequently, it's pull out these really cool, very awesome looking executions, and they do seem to fit him very well. So that gives this execution a 15 out of 16, which is a 94%. Very cool. Next up is the Wind's Edge. Oh, wow. This may be the most anime execution he has at his disposal. Okay, so first of all, a little bit of explanation. There is this anime trope, basically the fast draw execution. Basically, it's where a swordsman in anime draws their sword and then resheaths it so fast that but once it resheaths, suddenly the blood just explodes out of the person. It's like they just did it so fast you couldn't even see the blade. We're seeing that here. So this is going to be a lethality of 4, and the reason I say that is because based on the amount of blood coming out of his body and how it's continuously coming out of his body, we have to assume that the heart or some major arteries and veins were ruptured. So that's a lot of blood, so we have to assume that he was killed with that. Plus, the direction of the slash needs to be going up from the hip, up through the chest, across the heart, into the shoulder. You're practically cutting open the body at that point. I would say this person is dead. For realism, though, I'm going to give it a 0. There is no humanly possible way you could get the kill off that fast. Obviously, this is very anime. It's very fantasy, so we have to give it a 0 for realism. For efficiency, we'll go with a 4. I mean, it's fast. If you could pull this off in a battlefield scenario, I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't just keep doing it just again and again and again, just hyper fast killing people. I mean, let's go. And then for cool factor, I'll give it a 4 as well. I'm a sucker for these kind of anime style executions. They may not be realistic at all, but they look really, really cool and really stylish. So definitely awesome there. So that gives this execution a 12 out of 16, which is a 75%. Next up is Might of the Winds. Oh, the other anime execution. All right, this is going back again to that trope I was just talking about, the hyper fast slash and then slow resheathing. Okay, so basically the idea is you see this in a lot of anime. Basically, the person gets cut, but then nothing seems to happen until the blade clicks back into the scabbard. And then once it clicks back in, suddenly the effects of the slash are seen and noticeable. You see this in a lot of anime, like One Piece, Naruto, stuff like that. Like, you get used to seeing it. Well, if you look very carefully after the knight gets hit, take a look at his head, watch his head, boink, it kind of rolls off. So we have a decapitation. That's an automatic 4 for lethality. For realism, it's a 1. The reason I don't give it a 0 is because I actually do believe you could kill with that singular strike. What's unbelievable is the time it takes for a reaction. It's not anime, you know, in the real world, a strike like that, you'd see immediate effects, not just effects that take a few seconds. So sorry, that's my one problem there. That's a 1 for realism. For efficiency, I'm going to give it a 3. He could have just cut the neck and then been done, but he felt the need to draw it out with the slow resheath. And if you're on the battlefield, why do you keep resheathing your blade? Keep it out. Keep fighting with it. You know, like, I think it's silly that you resheath it like that. Each time you get your kill, you need to be ready to move on to the next part of the battle. So that's a 3 for efficiency. And then for cool factor, I'm going to give it a 4 because, again, it is just so awesome. This anime, really awesome kill. I just think it looks so sick. And some of you may have noticed, hey Raven, I noticed you're using the blue eyes effect. Is that intentional? Yes, it is, because it just looks so awesome. I'm sorry, it just really does. So yep, that is that is another 12 out of 16, which is a 75%. Next is Celestial Discipline. Okay, well, obviously this is going to be lethal because the blade is going through the chest and then through the head. Even if we didn't go through the torso, going through the head, that's going to kill. So that's a 4 for lethality. For realism, I'm going to give it a 2, and I'll tell you why. Once the blade went through the head, you've killed the brain. The brain is now dead. There are no electrical signals being sent through the body. So why on earth is Warden still holding on to the scabbard? Why is he still holding that? He should have dropped it. He should have let it go. He should not still be holding on to it for him to help re-sheath the sword. Like, that doesn't make a lick of sense. It's also a little unrealistic to believe that he could so easily resheath his blade while not looking. I think that's a little silly. Not that it's not entirely impossible, but I do think it's just silly enough for me to say, come on. For efficiency, I'm going to give it a 3. I don't know why he keeps resheathing his scabbard like this. You're in the battlefield. You need to keep your blade out. And I also don't like the fact that he hands Warden his sword. Now, I know, he pulled the sword out of the scabbard, so it was kind of a cool move like that, but I still think that's a little silly. So that's a 3 for efficiency. But then for cool factor, definitely a 4. This is solid. This is fierce. I really like it. This is a really cool execution. So I got to give it a 4 for cool factor. That gives this execution a 13 out of 16, which is an 81%. Very solid. Next up is Relentless Windstorm. Okay, well, we have a stab down, I think, into the head. Let's take a look from the other perspective just to verify. Okay, it's not even into the head. It's into the back, just beneath the head, but that's still through the vertebra, that's still through the spine, and it's up close to the neck, so I'm going to go ahead and assume that that's a kill. I'll say that's a 4 for lethality. I think that's a pretty safe bet. For realism, I'm going to give it a 4 as well. I feel like you could do a lot of this. The knockdown with the sweep is a little suspect, but we also saw him hit the head, which threw off his balance, so I'll grant it that at the very least. I'll give that a 4. For efficiency, I'm going to give it a 2. I see one major problem here, and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and that is, why did he resheath his blade before starting the execution? Why didn't he just strike the neck with the blade out? He could have finished the kill very quickly with one solid strike to the neck and then been done with it. I don't understand the need to resheath the blade just so that he could strike him here, then sweep, and then pull it out again to get the final blow. It's a waste of energy and it's a waste of time, because if you get interrupted, your blade is now still sheathed. You have to draw it again. There was no need to do that. So I gave it a 2 for efficiency. For cool factor, I gave it a 3. While it is a cool execution, I grant you, I feel like the fact that he had to sheath his sword when he really didn't have to was a bit unnecessary, and that did distract a little bit, so I give it a 3 for cool factor, which gives this execution a 13 out of 16, which is an 81%. And last up is through the head. Oh, good lord. Okay. For lethality, the scabbard and sword have both gone through the head. This person is dead. This person is no more. Their skull is destroyed, so is their brain. For realism, this is a 0. In fact, it's one of the few executions I'd love to give a negative point, because there's so much wrong with this execution. I know people like it. I think it's ridiculous. So first, after the kick, he throws his scabbard through the head. No, he throws it through the head, not the blade, the scabbard. And before anyone says, oh no, what happened, Raven, was the scabbard hit the back of the head, but then the blade pushed it all the way through. First of all, that's not how that works. That would not be what happens. But second of all, that's not what happened. If we look very carefully, the scabbard went through the head before the blade even made it to the head. This is not possible. This is not something that can or should be done, and I am offended that they would do this. Look, it's one thing to take off the head with a blade when I think that the blade shouldn't have done that, or the strength of the throw shouldn't have done that. It's another thing to take a blunt wooden scabbard and throw it one-handed clean through a head. No, that is absolutely atrocious, absolutely offensive. I can't believe they did that. Realism is a 0. Efficiency, I gave it a 1. Again, because you're throwing away your weapon. And it was dumb that you threw away your weapon. You threw away your scabbard and your blade. You didn't even just throw your blade and hold on to the scabbard. You threw both at the enemy. No, that is deplorable. That is terrible. I can't believe you did that. And then for cool factor, I know there are people who like this execution. I know there are people who enjoy it. I know there are people who think it's really badass. I'm not in that group. I think it's dumb. I gave it a 1 for cool factor. It only gets that 1. It only gets that 1 because I will admit this. It was kind of cool that you were able to throw your blade perfectly into the scabbard. That is kind of cool. I'm kind of impressed you had the ability to see and do that. That is nice. That is neat. That requires a lot of skill that I'm sure is really neat. Everything else about this execution, from the way that he kicks him down, to the way he throws the scabbard through the head, to the very slow walk to retrieve his blade, is stupid. That gives this execution a 6 out of 16, which is a 38%. Easily the worst one he has. All right, guys, we're done. We've gone through all of Kyoshin's executions, all 6 of them. I know it wasn't a whole lot, but we still had to take a look at them, didn't we? So after taking all of his executions, adding them all up, and then dividing by 6 to get our average, we got a score of a 74%. I know, that's kind of surprising, but keep in mind that all of these grades do have to come from somewhere. And what was interesting about these grades is, as I was looking them over, Kyoshin got top marks in lethality across the board. Lethality was excellent in every category. Cool factor for the most part was really good too, with only one exception, but realism and efficiency took some heavy hits, and I don't think Kyoshin was able to come back from that. And I think the reason for it is because Kyoshin embodies anime tropes and archetypes. Kyoshin is a sometimes half or totally blind swordsman. He uses a reverse grip on his blade. He has the most anime executions of all the characters. He's very much what Ubisoft said was, let's take a lot of popular swordsman tropes from anime and make them into a character. And that's what we got with Kyoshin. Is he a bad character? I don't want to say he's bad because there are aspects of him that I like. I don't like playing against him. I think Kyoshin is a kind of a broken character that needs some work, but he's fine overall. I think my issue here is when grading his executions, he's just a little too anime. And because of that, that's going to hurt in his realism category, and it's also going to hurt in his efficiency category. And I think that's what got him the 74 in this case. But what do you guys think? Did you enjoy this video? Do you think Kyoshin got the grade that he deserved? Do you think it should have been higher or lower? What do you guys think? Let me know down in the comment section below. And as always, I will see you in my next video. Take care.